Today on Notsam Wrestling, AJ Lee is back. Brock Lesnar is back. WrestlePalooza is filling out. AEW changing their pay-per-view start time and bringing it to HBO Max and so much more. This is Notsam Wrestling. Welcome to Notsam Wrestling. And in case you've been living under a rock, AJ Lee returned on WWE SmackDown on Friday night. First thing out of the gate, it was downstairs. The siren, it was on. And an emergency podcast had to be done just because of the sheer amount of feelings that went along with AJ Lee's return. And if you haven't been watching WWE for the last 10 years, it was really interesting. I was watching with my son, who I've brought up before, who's 8. So he wasn't even alive when AJ Lee last wrestled. And it's not like, we'll watch some older stuff. Has he seen SummerSlam 1988 and thought it was great? Maybe he has seen SummerSlam 1988 and thought it was great. But he wasn't there for that build of AJ Lee, but he understood that contagious enthusiasm of professional wrestling, realizing whether you were watching 10 years ago or not, that AJ Lee is a wrestler that fans that were watching 10 plus years ago are completely attached to and can't wait to come back. And these fans are very rarely wrong when it comes to stuff like that. Plus, she's real life married to CM Punk. Plus, Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins are involved in this story. All things told, this enthusiasm that we have as people who watched AJ Lee debut in the WWE, as people who saw AJ Lee on the version of NXT that was the version of NXT before the version of NXT that we have today. The people that watched AJ Lee come to the main roster. The people that are making jokes about the fact that maybe now AJ Lee is back, Kane is coming back too. That remember the Daniel Bryan story. That remember why CM Punk said that he digs crazy chicks. That remember all of this up until the night after WrestleMania 31 when AJ Lee wrestled her quote-unquote last match. And at that time, retired from wrestling. And she did it for real. It's not like she popped up elsewhere. She has not been back in a wrestling ring since the Monday Night Raw after WrestleMania 31. But for those of us that watched that, we were pumped. For those of us that were there for that, for those of us that were watching then and realized the significance of all of it, yeah, we were losing our minds on Friday night. And the people that weren't there, well, either they've caught up and they've watched some of it, or they've read about how significant this athlete is to the world of professional wrestling, or they're just looking around and understanding, talking to their neighbor and saying, oh, I get it. I'm excited too now. And what you get is an explosion that we got in Chicago on Friday night for the return of AJ Lee. And it's just one of those things where, on paper, I was saying, especially earlier in the week, by the time we got to the end of the week, it was different. But I was saying, what if you held it until WrestlePalooza and hinted heavily that AJ Lee was coming back, and then boom, at WrestlePalooza, you drop that music, Light It Up comes on, and AJ Lee comes out, and we get it, and that's how we start WrestlePalooza. What a big WrestlePalooza moment that would be. But Chicago is Chicago is Chicago is Chicago. And that all-state arena, the Rosemont Horizon, is one of the most significant American buildings in all of professional wrestling that is still standing today. What do you think of? Obviously, Madison Square Garden, the Rosemont Horizon. For me, the Mid-Hudson Civic Center in Poughkeepsie, New York, which is still standing under a different name. The Dallas Sportatorium, which is not still standing. I would argue the little building PWG ran in Reseda was a building that had character, no longer standing. The 2300 Arena, where AEW is running TV out of, hugely significant. The Viking Hall in Queens, New York. A VFW for all intents and purposes, but the Madhouse of Extreme for ECW. Extremely significant venue, but there's few arenas that match the Rosemont Horizon, the All-State Arena. And when you're walking around that building and realizing the guts are the same as the guts that were that building when Stone Cold Steve Austin passed out in Bret Hart's sharpshooter with blood running down his face. And the greatest double turn in the history of wrestling happened between Bret Hart and Stone Cold Steve Austin. That's the same building. And it's the same Chicago crowd that welcomed CM Punk back in the United Center for the first dance. It's the same Chicago crowd that welcomed CM Punk back at Survivor Series 2023, and that's the Chicago crowd that we had, and you could hear it. You could hear it, like I said, I saw in the comments on the Emergency podcast that people were saying that, yes, the folks in Chicago, that's exactly how they felt when Rhea Ripley's name came up, that they cheered her, but it was a cautious cheer. We're cheering her because we like her, but we're here to see AJ Lee. And CM Punk getting that ovation, I mean, you just had to know there was this magic. And all you had to do was execute on the magic. And that's exactly what happened. And the moment happened exactly, in my opinion, as it should have happened. Here's what we got. We got AJ Lee putting her hands on Becky Lynch. So we saw physicality, but no words, no microphone, no nothing. So what do we have? Something to look forward to. I would presume Monday night on Raw, we'll hear from AJ Lee. But I think it's almost like you couldn't wait until the pay-per-view for physicality, because at the time that AJ Lee was coming back, you had over 2 weeks to go before the show. I think 15 days before the show. And you're dropping AJ Lee on us, and you're not going to drop her 15 days before the show, and then she's not going to be on television leading up to the show. This is a big, big deal. Now, we got a lot of information that came out. So I say all that to say, you got to have physicality now, because, I mean, you can't wait on it. Like, CM Punk brings back AJ Lee because she's the secret weapon, and then you just sit for 15 days without proving it? I don't think so. So we saw a lot of footage, though, after it had all happened. And I can't wait for the doc, either the behind-the-scenes footage that WWE puts out, or, I mean, if they're doing more Unreal episodes. This whole AJ Lee would make for a tremendous Unreal. The Seth Rollins injury would make for a tremendous Unreal. The R-Truth getting released and then coming back would make for a tremendous Unreal. The real story behind what happened with Travis Scott would make for a tremendous Unreal. It's so interesting. All of that is post-WrestleMania, just the second half of this year. I mean, AJ Lee coming back on SmackDown was one of the biggest returns of all time. But was it the biggest return of the year? Was it the biggest return of the 2020s? I don't know. I can't wait, really. I'm going to need to sit down with a pen and paper and really, and I'll, in a couple of months, and really go through what this year was, because it has been absolutely insane. So after the AJ Lee return, as I'm recording the Emergency podcast and posting it here on the Notsam Wrestling feed, we first see this video. First, the photo comes out. The photo comes out of Triple H pointing to AJ Lee. And that's what it is. You need that photo. Because multiple times, that's the photo that we thought we were never going to see. Triple H pointing at CM Punk. Never thought we were going to see it. And now, almost 2 months shy of 2 years later, we see Triple H pointing to AJ Lee, another one that we thought maybe was never going to happen. And there it is. And then there's another photo of Triple H and CM Punk together pointing to AJ Lee, and you're like, there is no never in the world of professional wrestling. There is no blacklist. There is no banned for life. There is no it's never going to happen. It just doesn't exist. Sometimes it never happens. But until it's never happening, you can't say it's never going to happen. You know what I mean? So we find out, not only do we see this photo, but then video starts coming out, and we see that AJ Lee signed her contract that day in Chicago. And that's something I'd love from a wrestling historian point of view to look into. Is Chicago the city that had the greatest number of amazing wrestling contracts being signed? Because don't forget, that same building now, that same building is the building in which CM Punk signed his WWE contract officially. Both CM Punk and AJ Lee sitting backstage in the Allstate, signed their contracts immediately before going out there. That's nuts. To think, you want to believe that everything can get planned 6 months in advance, but sometimes, if this is a possibility, let's make it happen. I mean, 6 months ago, WrestlePalooza didn't exist as a pay-per-view. 2 months ago, WrestlePalooza didn't exist as a pay-per-view. I mean, 2 months ago, a month ago, WrestlePalooza didn't exist as a pay-per-view, and ESPN didn't exist as the spot that WWE had their premium live events on. And look where we are. We've got a new premium live event, WrestlePalooza, featuring AJ Lee on ESPN. If you had told me that in July, I would have said, I don't know what you're talking about. That's how quickly things are moving in 2025 in WWE. So we see this contract being signed, and I immediately, before I even read the dirts, because you got to read the dirts. If you want to find out what's going on, you got to read the dirts. But before I even get into the dirts, I just use logic. And I go, well, if this was a one-match deal, if AJ Lee was coming back for the build-up and the execution, and the payoff, I should say, on this mixed tag team match, then would they really go to the trouble of showing Triple H and AJ Lee sitting down to sign a WWE contract? I don't see why they would. Instead, I think that what you wouldn't want to do is get expectations up only for people to be disappointed. I don't think that they would do that intentionally. Sometimes things fall through and there's nothing you can do, but I don't think that it's not a smart thing to do intentionally if you can avoid it. I think it would be very easy to, go on Raw on Monday and have, Adam Pearce say, or Triple H himself, you're not an official WWE superstar. We're going to need you to sign a contract for one night only to wrestle in this mixed tag team match. They could have done that. They didn't. They showed Triple H and AJ Lee sitting down, signing a contract, and Triple H saying, welcome home. It's never too late to come home. Everybody can come home. Welcome home. And to me, that means AJ Lee is back. And it only makes sense that AJ Lee would be back. If she's willing to be back, there is so much to do with AJ Lee. And it's really interesting seeing all these returns happen, because what it does is it ups the ante, and I think that everybody watching that maybe thought that their time in WWE was done is maybe looking at this going, wait, they're getting really good at these big returns. And the fans are this amazing mix of brand new fans that are going to get to see you for the first time, and fans that are swimming in these waves of nostalgia. And when those two things intersect, wow, look at what you get. Look at what you get in front of you. Look at all the examples of what is possible. And I'm sure everybody that's out there that at one point or another was a big name in the WWE that feels for one reason or another like everything that they could accomplish in the WWE has yet to be accomplished. They've got to be looking at that going, maybe there is room for more. AJ Lee coming out there, and it's this mixed tag match is huge for WrestlePalooza. But what if at Crown Jewel, we could get an AJ Lee versus Becky Lynch singles match? That would be massive. You've got War Games coming up. You've got a women's War Game match. You mean to tell me that AJ Lee could captain a women's War Games team? That AJ Lee could captain a team of babyfaces? You got AJ Lee. The names that were mentioned by CM Punk himself. AJ Lee, Rhea Ripley, Bayley, whoever you want to get. And who knows if Bayley's going to be a babyface or a heel when she comes back. But that's all to say. And by the way, they don't all have to be CM Punk's fans. That AJ Lee now, because what you've got is, and it's amazing, that when you look at AJ Lee, I was watching footage of her today. It's out everywhere again, where you see AJ Lee meeting Lita at an autograph signing, and she's a kid, and she's crying. She's beside herself. But then those same pictures of Cora Jade and Roxanne Perez exist meeting and holding up signs for AJ Lee. So you see this generational thing happening. And it's almost like AJ Lee becomes that maternal figure. As young as she is, by the way, she becomes that maternal figure for a group of women in the WWE right now that maybe don't fit a certain mold and are ready to break out. That's a great spot for AJ Lee to be in. But I mean, like as far you've got massive star power now, and that takes us all the way to December for the rest of the year. And then AJ Lee getting into the Rumble in January, February, whenever it's happening. AJ Lee entering the Royal Rumble. You mean to tell me she wouldn't be a favorite? That you're going like, wow, okay, so we've seen AJ in the mixed tag. We've seen AJ and Becky. We've seen AJ in War Games. We've watched AJ kind of, not doing stuff with Punk anymore now, kind of doing stuff on her own. AJ Lee could main event a WrestleMania easily. I mean, can you imagine a world where CM Punk could main events night 2 and AJ Lee main events night 1 or vice versa? What if we get to a point where it's like, yeah, we want to see AJ Lee versus whoever the WWE Women's Champion is at that point. Tiffany Stratton. You want to see AJ Lee versus Io Sky. You want to see AJ Lee versus Stephanie Vaquer. Like there's a lot to be done there and plenty of time to do it in. So I hope that it is what I interpret it to be. And AJ Lee being back. AJ Lee back for a solid run. And, I think that CM Punk proves that when you provide a value, that in today's WWE, there is a spot for you to be able to provide that value and have a good time doing it. I also took that all into consideration when I saw AJ Lee kind of celebrating after SmackDown went off the air. They kept the cameras rolling, obviously, and they went to the WWE's YouTube channel, which now has multiple AJ Lee videos with well over 1 million views on each one. But AJ Lee is like celebrating with the Intercontinental Championship in the ring. Becky's left the Intercontinental Championship, and she's just like holding it and giving people the vision of what that could look like. And instantly, it's like, it's the same thing that we said right after Clash in Paris, when CM Punk is holding the sign that says, bring back AJ Lee. Like, do you do that if you don't have an intention to bring her back? Do you hold up a championship if you don't have an intention to stay in WWE long enough to fight for a championship? I don't think you do. And I think that that's something people would want to see. Merch is back up on WWE Shop. Emails are already going out. Everything, you can get that logo on a tank top or a t-shirt or a hoodie, whatever you want. And it's AJ Lee as we remembered AJ Lee. It's the same AJ Lee that left 10 plus years ago, except somehow she looks even better. She's in unbelievable shape. And it's like the shorts, the t-shirt, the design, everything. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And here's AJ Lee. I think that when you look at the returns like I was talking about, and it goes to somebody like Nikki Bella. Like Nikki Bella is a big enough star that if things went a certain way, Nikki Bella could be the biggest return of a certain year. But when you're talking about a WWE that moves this fast, that is getting so good at figuring out ways to showcase all these different stars, even for someone like Nikki Bella or whoever, a Nikki Bella level superstar, in order to maintain the attention of the fans, you got to work twice as hard as anybody ever did because there's so much going on. And so I'm sitting there going like, these returns work so well. And the superstars benefit from them and see them all. You know what I'm saying? So who could be next, right? Because some people would even look at this AJ Lee thing and go, well, we've done it now. Like, that's probably the last one. And I don't know. So I'm thinking about it and I go, okay, there's all these rumors about Jericho. And we'll talk about Jericho a little bit later on. But there's all these rumors about Jericho. And of course, he's a possibility. And again, the fact that there's so much conversation about him, I've got a lot to say. I think Edge coming back at a certain point would be meaningful. I think the idea of what you look at is guys that you want to see or superstars that you want to see have a last match and have their last match in a WWE ring. And it's tough because Nikki Bella could have an amazing run and then go into the Hall of Fame, but she's already in the Hall of Fame. Same thing with Edge. Like, you'd love for him to come back, have a big match, and then go in the Hall of Fame, but he's already in the Hall of Fame. But still, I think that Edge is somebody that could come back and have, like, you know, a short run and maybe one big match to end the thing, you know, whenever he's done in AEW. I think, though, that the name that hits me the hardest and the name that would be like, okay, what is a return of a superstar that could come back, have that sort of dual wave of nostalgia and also fans that want to see what this is all about, have that sort of come together the way it did for Punk and AJ Lee and everybody, and have enough left that they could have a full run. Not a last year, not yep, we're building to the last match, but a run. And to me, maybe the last person, maybe, on that level that would be a complete game changer would be Mox. If Dean Ambrose came back to the WWE, if Ambrose came back, it would be earth-shattering. That would probably be the last one. Where it'd be like, and there'd be a lot that I'd love to see come back. I'd love to see Matt Cardona come back to the WWE and have a run. There's plenty of people, but in terms of people where it's like, oh my God, the whole wrestling world stops and this is all we're going to talk about. AJ Lee returned on SmackDown. It was the same SmackDown that John Cena wrestled on. It was the same SmackDown that Brock Lesnar made a surprise appearance on. All this stuff is going on. Punk, Becky, Seth, and AJ Lee returning stops the wrestling world enough to say, we got to talk about this. Who is able to command that level? If you've got anybody else, leave it in the comments or reviews on the podcast feeds or email it in or something, because I'd love to know. But the only name that I could really, really think of is Mox. And if he came back, and he would probably come back as Dean Ambrose, and I would think that would be the way to do it. But if he came back as Dean Ambrose, because then, I mean, think about not only are there all these matches that you could have, not only are all those stories that you could tell, but whether you did it the night he came back, whether you did it later on, the idea of having Seth, Roman, and Mox in a ring together, even just looking at each other, I mean, buildings would crumble to the ground if that happened. It'd be so nuts. It'd be similar to when Batista was starting his run back, and they did that one night where Evolution all stepped in the ring, but I think it would be even bigger. Because I think the idea of Batista coming back at that point was big, but not impossible. The idea of Mox, I think it feels more like a stretch. And also, it's like, the Shield just hits different. You know what I mean? The Shield, because it not only was it that era, and they were the coolest things on television at that point, but also the idea that this group of virtual unknowns shows up in the WWE, and all three of them end up being household names. All three of them end up being main eventers. All three of them end up being world champions. All three of them end up being guys that have a company on their back for a period of time. That's crazy. So I think that's who it is. Let me know if you think that there's somebody else that it even could be, because I don't know. But I thought, like, I had the siren ready to go because I thought that there was a good chance that I was going to end up doing an emergency podcast about what was happening with John Cena. Now, John Cena, he came out on SmackDown to open the show. And his promo, and basically, I think the first 45 minutes or more was all John Cena stuff, as it should have been. I thought it was great. But he was very reflective over the last year in this promo. I think that he carries Chicago very near and dear to his heart. And I think that he was reflective over what this year and this run has been. And I mean, I think really, as you're looking at it, man, there are some that will tell you, we wasted too much time with that heel turn because we didn't get the matches. The story didn't pan out. But I truly think, man, that heel turn allowed John Cena to get his feet wet into what WWE looks like now, and it gave him the motivation. Coming off of that heel turn has made us appreciate him so much more for these last 4 or 5 months that he's here. That I think that ultimately it's a good thing, not because it was good, but because everything SummerSlam on has been so incredible that I don't know if that's something that you can do for a full year. But John Cena comes out and he's reflective not only of the fact that he's in Chicago, and the Chicago fans have meant so much to him, and also Chicago is where he made his debut. Chicago is the city that he did the Ruthless Aggression promo when he came out with and confronted Kurt Angle. Like, this is a bookend moment of all bookend moments. And he was also reflective because, of course, SmackDown is the show that really made John Cena. John Cena debuted on SmackDown. John Cena became the Doctor of Thugonomics on SmackDown. John Cena won his first WWE Championship as a SmackDown superstar. He was the guy on SmackDown. And, like, moving him to Raw, that was a moment that people were like, oh, like, back in those days, it was like the world champion on Raw was the world champion. And SmackDown was where, you know, some of the younger guys, some of SmackDown, you could be a little bit more experimental. SmackDown, you could build talent a little bit more, as opposed to Raw, where it was like, this is where the established talent is. And so when John Cena got drafted over to Monday Night Raw, it was this big deal. It was John Cena getting drafted to Monday Night Raw was when it became clear that the intention was for him to be the face of the company. Before that, it was let's see. And then boom, when he showed up with that Spirit of St. Louis jersey on and the belt on Monday Night Raw for the first time, it was like, yeah, here we go. But I say all that to say that early foundational building of John Cena, he was so associated with SmackDown. And by the way, before it was the like, let's go Cena sucks, we loved John Cena. John Cena was cool. We loved the rebellious part of John Cena. WrestleMania 20, almost people didn't turn on John Cena until it was clear. It's like Roman Reigns. People loved Roman Reigns. And then it became clear that the company was like, he's our guy. And we were like, whoa, I don't know if he's ready for that. And then we all turned on him. Same thing we did to John Cena. We all loved John Cena. And then the company was like, yeah, we love him too. He's our guy. And we're like, let's relax. I thought he was our guy, but if he's going to be your guy, I don't think so. We've got another guy in mind. But John Cena was kind of, I think, feeling all that SmackDown history because, as it turns out, this was his last ever SmackDown. Not only was it his last night in Chicago, but it was his last night on SmackDown. And I'm pulling up what the remainder of his schedule is, because it's pretty astounding how little John Cena that we have left as he's building to this Brock Lesnar match that's going to, now we know for sure, go down at WrestlePalooza. Let's see. Where did I have it? I had here it is. So he's going to be on Monday Night Raw in a week. So September 15th, he's going to be on Raw. Then WrestlePalooza, obviously in Indianapolis. Then he's gone after WrestlePalooza until Crown Jewel. Now, Crown Jewel is only 3 weeks or less after WrestlePalooza. Crown Jewel is October 11th. So I don't know if they're going to set up for a rematch at WrestlePalooza. I don't know how they're going to exactly pull that off. But on the schedule right now, I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 dates on his schedule. And, I think that's all he's got because on the post show of Clash in Paris, he said we have 8 more of these, and SmackDown was one of them. So these are the 7. There's Raw on the 15th of September. There's WrestlePalooza. Then it goes right to Crown Jewel. After Crown Jewel, he's gone for a month. And then he's back for 2 Monday Night Raws leading to Survivor Series, meaning he won't be on the November 1st Saturday Night's Main Event. He's got Raw in Boston on the 10th of November, and then Raw in Madison Square Garden a week later on the 17th of November. Then he's in San Diego for Survivor Series. And then after that, all you've got is the retirement match. So so whatever story he's got, right? He's got WrestlePalooza. He's going to have a match in Crown Jewel. He's realistically going to have one more story because he's got 2 Raws and Survivor Series. So who knows at this point? I would have said that I wanted him in I would have said that I wanted him in War Games. But now I'm like, man, if you've only got one more story left, realistically, after Brock, because you got nothing before Crown Jewel, between WrestlePalooza and Crown Jewel, and then you got 2 Raws and Survivor Series. So we can either have one more story in a match or War Games. That's going to be something that I think we discuss coming off of Crown Jewel. That's going to be a big topic for November. And then after that is only the retirement match, and that's it for John Cena. I love that he's gone towards all the tributes that he's doing in his matches for people that he clearly won't be able to wrestle on this retirement tour. We talked about it with the Logan Paul match and all the shout-outs that were in there. But here on the match with Sami Zayn, he had this impromptu match with Sami Zayn. I want to talk about the crowd's reaction to Sami Zayn in a moment. But he has this impromptu match with Sami Zayn. And Sami Zayn comes out as the United States champion, and he brings up the fact that his main roster debut was answering John Cena's United States Open Challenge. And that was a huge moment for Sami Zayn. If he threw his shoulder out in that match, in the intro to that match, and they had to kind of pivot after that. Who knows what would have happened after that match, but that was his main roster call-up, Sami Zayn and John Cena. It was a hell of a match. And he says, I'd like to pay tribute to that. And John Cena says, great, do an open challenge. I love it. Put over young guys. And right before he can leave, Sami said, no, I want you to answer my U.S. Open challenge. I want you to answer it. I want to defend my title against you, and I want to do it right now. I thought he was going to say later in the night. No, he said, I want to do it right now. When you want to do this right now, okay, they go to commercial break, a referee runs in the ring, and they start that match. The match is now, which I love. I love that, like, we're just sitting there, and all of a sudden, we're knee-deep in a John Cena match. Like, that's massive. So he's having this match now with Sami Zayn, and like throughout the match, you see a Kevin Owens pop-up powerbomb. You see a go to sleep, which of course he did wrestle CM Punk on this tour, but still, like, just a tribute. He's in Chicago. You better tribute that, Money in the Bank match, and he brought it up on his promo as well. He did a pop-up powerbomb for Kevin Owens. He did a go to sleep for CM Punk. He did an angle slam and an ankle lock for Kurt Angle, his first rival in the WWE that started in Chicago. And then he did a spear, and that spear was for Edge. I always loved Edge's spear setup when he's just like, he's rabid. When he's in the corner realizing he's got the opportunity to spear your soul out of your body. And he's just kneeling in that corner. Well, he's crouching, I should say, crouching in that corner. He's got that one hand on the ropes, and he's psychotically pushing his hair back out of his face, going, get up, get up, get up, get up, and then spearing you right out of your boots. So we got Edge, double Kurt Angle, Kevin Owens, and CM Punk all in that match. And the match before it, who do we get? AJ Styles, Cesaro, Dolph Ziggler. I don't know. I think there were a couple other ones. We talked about it when it happened. But it's so fun to see that all go down. And I wonder if that's going to happen in the Brock match, because we have both guys go down. John Cena is able to hit an attitude adjustment off the top rope. We have, Sammy kicking out of an AA. We have Cena kicking out of a haluva kick. It's great. I mean, the match was fantastic. We're just getting banger after banger from John Cena right now. Incredible match with Cody Rhodes. Incredible match with Logan Paul. Incredible match with Sami Zayn. And apparently Brock's going to be the next one, because as both men are laying on the ground, unconscious, unresponsive, Brock Lesnar's music hits. Here comes Brock. He F5s Sami Zayn. And then he F5s John Cena twice. And he smiles and he leaves, and they go to commercial break. When they come back, we see Brock Lesnar walking right past Michael P.S. Hayes And he looks right at the camera and he says, hey, John, I'll see you in WrestlePalooza. And then he calls him the B word and keeps on walking right out of the building. Now, we're going to get Brock Lesnar in person on SmackDown next week or this week, and then next week as well. I think the next 2 Fridays, Brock Lesnar is on SmackDown. And he's another one. This is another one that I'm curious about. The Dirts, I love the Dirts. The Dirts are saying Brock is back with a new contract. I don't know what that new contract says. I'm not, as it turns out, Brock's agent, manager, or lawyer, so I have not read the contract. But I'm very curious to know, is he back for the Cena farewell, or is he back? Is Brock Lesnar back for the Cena farewell, or is he back to be a part of that active roster? Is he back to be that looming threat that he used to be? Is he back because you never know when Roman is going to think he's won his match and everything is good, and then boom, Brock's music hits? Is Brock going to align with Paul Heyman and Seth Rollins groups? Brock has had problems with Seth. Brock has had problems with Roman. Brock has had problems with Paul Heyman. Brock has also been on the same side as Paul Heyman. Is that the direction that it's going to go in? Are we going to get to see the match that everybody wants to see, which is Gunther versus Brock Lesnar? I'm going to see Jacob Fatu square off with Brock Lesnar. I don't know. All we can do is stay present in this moment and realize that the graphic came up after Brock Lesnar said what he said about John Cena, and it became official. Brock Lesnar versus John Cena is a match at WrestlePalooza. And we're going to talk about card order a little bit later, because it looks like what we've got for WrestlePalooza is Brock and John Cena. We definitely have Brock and John Cena. We definitely have Io Sky versus Stephanie Vaquer. I would imagine we've got our Punk mixed tag with AJ Lee versus Seth and Becky. I would think I know we're getting Randy Orton versus Drew McIntyre next week on SmackDown. We're either going to get Randy and Drew or Randy and Cody. I would hope we're getting Randy. I think we're getting Randy and Cody. Randy and Drew or Cody and Drew. I would think we'll get Cody and Drew because Cody was in the press release, but we'll see. And then it looks like the Usos get back together. So before we get much further with all that, I thought it was very important to point out that John Cena did something that I thought was very good for Sami Zayn. At the end of that match, John Cena hits Sami Zayn with an attitude adjustment off the top rope. Sami Zayn is out, but John Cena is out too. Brock Lesnar's music hits and interrupts that match. When Brock Lesnar's music hits and interrupts that match, John Cena is on one side of the ring, Sami Zayn is on the other side of the ring. Both of them have kicked out of each other's finishes. Did Sami Zayn beat John Cena? No, he did not. But when Brock Lesnar interrupted, can you tell me John Cena was about to win that match? No. John Cena could have been a scenario where John Cena would have won had Brock Lesnar not interfered. But that was absolutely not the scenario. They were on opposite sides of the ring and both had kicked out of each other's finishes. There is nothing that would have said, especially as they were waiting there. Brock Lesnar's music hits multiple seconds after both Cena and Sami were laying in the middle of the ring. That is not a scenario where the ending of the match is about to happen. That is not a scenario where the final fall is about to happen. And so what we end up seeing is, yes, the match was interrupted, and yes, it's a no contest, and yes, John Cena didn't lose, and yes, we're going to John Cena versus Brock Lesnar. But for the sake of Sami Zayn's title reign, we can't say John Cena would have beaten Sami Zayn. The United States Championship is protected. Sami Zayn's reign as champion is protected because Sami could have won that match just as easily as John Cena could have won that match had Brock Lesnar not interfered. And I thought that was such an important detail of the way that finish was worked out. That Sami didn't lose anything in that match. Guys, we're going to get right back to it, but I want you to know that Cash App is the financial glow up that you've been looking for. If you didn't know, Cash App is more than just a safe way to send and receive money. With the Cash App card, yes, you get tons of perks without any hidden fees. Think early access to concert pre-sales like Kendrick Lamar, Sabrina Carpenter, just to name a few, plus discounts on everyday purchases at brands that you're probably already spending money on. It also keeps your money safe by automatically flagging any suspicious transactions and letting you lock your card instantly if it's ever lost or stolen. Spend with confidence with the Cash App card today. For a limited time only, new Cash App customers can use our exclusive code to earn some additional cash. That's right, it's for real. Just download Cash App and use our exclusive referral code CASHAPP10 in your profile. Send $5 to a friend within 14 days, and you'll get $10 dropped right into your account. Terms apply. That's money. That's Cash App. Cash App is a financial services platform, not a bank. Banking services provided by Cash App's bank partners. Prepaid debit cards issued by Sutton Bank, member FDIC. Discounts provided by Cash App, a Block Inc. brand. Visit cash.app/legal/podcast for full disclosures. Now, what I thought was interesting about Sami in that match was that Sami Zayn comes out and he interrupts John Cena, and Sami Zayn got booed. And they tried to do some recovery on it, but Chicago wasn't having it. Chicago was booing Sami Zayn. And they did boo spots, and they booed Sami Zayn. And it would be easy to say that they were booing him because he interrupted John Cena, because he's not John Cena. And that's true. That's what made it easy. They didn't boo Rhea Ripley when CM Punk brought up Rhea Ripley. They didn't boo her. She's not AJ Lee, but she didn't get booed. Do I think Sami Zayn's going to get booed every single time he comes out on SmackDown? No, I don't think that's happening yet. But I do think that Chicago was representative of a certain segment of the audience. And I think that it's very simple. I don't think that first of all, I don't think based on his work, Sami deserves boos. But I think what's being booed is the character. I think that there is a portion of wrestling fans that just don't believe that Sami Zayn is an underdog anymore. You know, and I think good. You know, we rode that underdog thing as long as we could. He was maybe the greatest underdog of all time on that Elimination Chamber pay-per-view leading up to WrestleMania 39. His match with Roman Reigns, it's maybe the greatest underdog versus champion match ever. And that's awesome. And he's been able to be that guy ever since. And he rode that way, and he did it with Gunther, and he's done it with multiple people. And, you know, even with the Karrion Kross thing, like having to prove he's not that. But look, I think the fact that he's now won the Intercontinental title, he's won the United States Championship in his first try against Solo Sikoa, he's had main evented a PLE with Roman Reigns. He's taken John Cena all the way. Like, I don't think that Sami Zayn can present himself as an underdog anymore, or should. He could do whatever he wants. Because I don't think that we perceive him as an underdog anymore. And I also don't think that he's like, I think he's a WWE guy. You know what I mean? And a big WWE star. He's not an outsider. He's not from the underground, and he's not an underdog. That was the case. It's no longer the case. And I think it just becomes a matter of Sami Zayn maybe taking his position as now a veteran. That Sami Zayn is no longer like that weird goofy guy. Sami Zayn is no longer the underdog. Sami Zayn is no longer the guy where people are asking, what's he doing here? Sami Zayn is a veteran of the WWE locker room, a highly decorated superstar that anybody would be happy to have him on their side. And he can still wrestle in a way that is all heart, and he can still be relatable, and he can still be all of that. But you see how, like, very quickly, Jey Uso has changed his character to lean into the fact that he's a former world champion, that he's not this like, oh, gee, shucks, I can't believe I'm here. He's in the spot that he should be in. And I think that that's very helpful in the way that the people perceive Jey Uso. They don't want to believe that you can't believe that you're here because we can. Are we dumb for believing in you? And I think that Sami Zayn's in that same position where it's like, I think that Sami Zayn, and by the way, When the U.S. Open Challenge was brought up, I said last week that that's what Sami Zayn should do. I called that before anybody. Sami Zayn should say that, I've been pursuing my goals, but I've met them all. And no, I've never been world heavyweight champion, and I'll get there one day, I'm sure. Or maybe I won't, but I've accomplished more in this business than anybody could ever dream of. I've accomplished more in this business than I ever thought I would. And I'm better than I ever thought I would be. And it's my job to make sure that this industry continues to prosper. And so I'd like to give everybody a shot. I'd like to do what John Cena did for me. And Sami Zayn needs to take that role, especially as United States champion. Maybe if he's world heavyweight champion, then he can be a little bit more of an underdog. But as United States champion, he needs to be that guy that's like, yeah, I'm going to have matches with Carmelo Hayes. I'm going to have Javon Evans come up from NXT and have a match with me. I'm going to be that guy. I'm going to have matches with, Otis, and it's going to be matches that nobody sees coming. Like Otis is going to shine in this match. I'm going to, like, these guys that don't get that opportunity, I'm going to show you guys what Tozawa is capable of. Those are the people that Sami Zayn should be wrestling right now as United States champion, and those are the people that he should be defending the title against, because we've got enough people right now to make the established stars continue to look like established stars. I think Sami can own his position of being that veteran and go, okay, look, this is what I'm here to do now. And I think that Chicago was a bit of a warning shot. But I think that there is that ability to boo Sami Zayn now in fans that has not been there since he was a conspiracy victim 4 years ago. I think since 2021, nobody's had the ability to boo Sami Zayn. And I think that ability is coming back because Sami Zayn's best strength is his authenticity. And I think that if he is portrayed as an underdog as United States champion, people won't read it as authentic. So I think that that's the way. If you're wondering, okay, did you hear those boos? I think that the way you get past that is simple. And that is be authentic. And say, hey, I've broken all barriers and against all odds, become an established WWE superstar and a household name. So I want to pay that forward. And I want to do that for other people. And those are the matches that I'd like to see Sami Zayn start having for a while, because he's earned them. He should be having those matches. So we were talking earlier about big returns and Mox and everything. And of course, Chris Jericho's name came up. Chris Jericho, who we were talking, I think, a week or two ago about the idea that he could return to WWE. There are rumors that his contract is up maybe towards the end of the year, that he's off of AEW television right now, that people don't know. I mean, listen, as I said, my hope is that Chris Jericho comes back to WWE. My hope is that he has one more run and then goes into the Hall of Fame. He's one of the biggest WWE stars of all time. You talk about household names. He's one of those names right under Stone Cold and The Rock that people bring up for the Attitude Era. Stone Cold, The Rock, The Undertaker, Mankind, Chris Jericho. That's what they say. And, I think that Chris Jericho has the ability to just continue to reinvent himself. And frankly, I think that, first of all, there are people who think that Judas should be the song that he comes back with, and it's just not the case. In WWE, the reaction would be break the walls down. It's the same reason when CM Punk came back, they wanted the same CM Punk that was here 10 years ago. When AJ Lee came back, we wanted the same AJ Lee that was here 10 years ago. AJ Lee is a little bit of a different example, but it's the Hogan thing, man. And I've talked about this. It's the Hogan thing. We didn't want Hollywood. Hollywood had done amazing things. We didn't want Hollywood. We wanted the red and yellow because he's the guy that left. The guy that left WWE is break the walls down. That's what the WWE fans want to see again. It just is. It's always been that way. Like, Cody is the exception because Cody was not a main eventer when he left. and he had to leave. It was a totally different story. Other than that, when a main eventer leaves and then is coming back, it's the same reason why I said if Mox were to come back, WWE fans would want Dean Ambrose. That's who they'd want. That's just how it's always been and how I think it will always be. But I think hearing Break the Walls Down kick in would be massive for WWE fans. And quite frankly, I think that there's a clear role for him to fit, which is at the end of the year, John Cena says goodbye. There is a fan that's been watching this year because they love John Cena's final run. There is a fan, and when I say a fan, I mean a type of fan, a group of fans. There's a fan that wants that ability to see the appreciation run and to go man, it's so cool. This is the guy I watched when I was in high school, and now I get to cheer him on again as an adult with disposable income. This is amazing. I get to bring my kids to see John Cena. That's what it is. This is so fun. As an adult, I get to watch John Cena. As an adult, I get to watch John Cena with my kids. I get to, relive this thing. And when John Cena leaves, that part of WWE is a little bit gone. I mean, CM Punk is there a little bit to do it, but also, CM Punk is also a current star. I feel like Jericho fits that mold more than anybody. That as John Cena leaves, and I don't mean that Chris Jericho comes in and says, okay, I have a year left. Chris Jericho just coming in and bringing Break the Walls Down back. And, throughout the amount of time that he's in WWE, you could evolve. You could have a run where he does Judas. You could have a run where, the idea of bringing the Painmaker back and having him be the Painmaker in WWE for a period of time, I think would be great. But we want Y2J. We want Y2J back. That's what we want. He was on a red carpet, though, this week and said, somebody asked him about it. I think it was on the red carpet for the Universal horror nights, whatever it is, where they have a Wyatt's house and they have Terrifier being very well represented there. And he's in the Terrifier movies. Jericho is. And he says, I'm still with AEW for right now. Would I go back to WWE? I wouldn't be opposed to it. We'll just have to wait and see what happens. But the best thing that could happen is to have two great teams that you can play for. And that just makes everything bigger and more exciting. It's a great answer, and it's a great answer from somebody who is actively negotiating. Chris Jericho, of all people in wrestling, is a guy who has never forgotten what the business part of this is. I think there is so much about Chris Jericho and the way he has done business in wrestling to really look at and study and go, of all the guys who get it, Chris Jericho gets it. It's not only his ability to keep popping up because he understands the business so well, but he understands the business and the audience so well that he keeps being relevant and he keeps being a part of conversations. And, personally, I think I always, and I said this before, and I interviewed him, I think it's kind of genius that when the AEW fans turned on Chris started chanting the please retire stuff, that he started the learning tree. I think the learning tree is a brilliant era of Chris Jericho. The fact that he heard the criticisms and became the character. It's almost like what Becky Lynch has done with her heel run, which is the foundation of the heel run is all the the haters on Twitter, right? Jericho heard the criticism and said, okay, if you want me to be that guy, I am whatever you say I am. If I wasn't, then why would I say I am? That's the learning tree. And I think that I thought it was brilliant. So, he's done so much. So I really hope that he is. And I'm sure too, that Chris Jericho is seeing these returns and he's seeing what's going on for John Cena right now. And he saw the CM Punk return and he saw the AJ Lee return and he even saw the Cody Rhodes return. And he's seeing all of this that's happened and realizing that in WWE right now, there is room for a Chris Jericho. There are times where there hasn't been room for returning legends or returning legends aren't being treated right. There is no way you can, as Chris Jericho, watch WWE right now and not think, oh yeah, there is a big place for me. And I think that there is. I mean, just think about like Chris ends up back in the WWE video games. He's back in the WWE action figure lines. We can sell vintage Y2J t-shirts. He's back in the Topps cards. He's back in everything. And oh yeah, he's an active part of the roster. And he's doing original stuff every Monday night. And I think that the Festival of Friendship was like the last, I think, if my timing is right, I don't want to discount anything, but the Festival of Friendship was the last, major thing, I think, that he did in WWE, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And it was absolutely genius. And it didn't end properly at WrestleMania. And it's interesting with Jericho because, his history at WrestleMania is, he's actually not treated the best in terms of the opportunities that he gets at WrestleMania. His match with Kevin should have been a much bigger deal at WrestleMania. He should not have main evented WrestleMania 18 with Triple H. That match should have gone on second to last or wherever. You shouldn't have had to follow. He and Hunter should not have had to follow Rock and Hogan. And at WrestleMania, I felt like his match at WrestleMania 28 with CM Punk didn't get the love that it should have gotten. And because it was great and the story was great. And he lost to Fandango at WrestleMania 29. And that wasn't executed properly post WrestleMania. So, man, if that Royal Rumble comes, and in the men's Rumble, Break the Walls Down plays, now we're off to the races for 2026. It'll be unbelievable. We're going to get right back to it, guys, but this episode is being brought to you by Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. You can get started right away. You just pick more or less on player stat projections. That's it. If you're right, it could seriously pay off. I've been doing free-to-play stuff all over the place. And I mean, I've got Aaron Rodgers. I've got Jaden Daniels over here. It's so much fun. And then if I want to switch over to baseball, Juan Soto's over here with all their stats right there. See, they say Juan Soto, 7.5 hitter fantasy score. Up, down, easy. It's painless, simple. And like I said, if you're right, it could pay off. Prize Picks even offers injury reboots. So if one of your players has to leave the field in the first half and can't come back, it doesn't count as a loss. They make it fun. That's the best part of it. Well, winning is also pretty good. Download the app today and use code NOTSAM to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code NOTSAM to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. So speaking of AEW has decided to change their pay-per-view start time. So All Out is still going to be on the same day as WrestlePalooza, but now instead of running head-to-head, both shows at 8 p.m., All Out's going to start at 3 p.m., the pay-per-view for the first time is going to be available on HBO Max, but it'll still be a pay-per-view. So it'll be $39.99 instead of $49.99, but you have HBO Max, and then you can pay your $40 and you can watch All Out on Max. And Max with ads is $10. So with the subscription service, you end up, if you were paying $50 for AEW pay-per-views, you can now get Max with ads and the pay-per-view for the same price as one of them. Which, is cool. I still think, if they're going to be competing like this, AEW's in a bit of a tougher spot with still using the pay-per-view model. Obviously, it's financially sound for them because otherwise they wouldn't be doing it. But it becomes more difficult when you're running head-to-head, especially if WWE's putting on massive shows head-to-head to get people to pay for pay-per-view. I mean, especially in an era where, other than AEW, even the Canelo fight is going to be on Netflix, and you're not paying for it. So, it's just a very, very interesting time for media in general, I think. I think that I don't think that this is AEW throwing in the white flag. I think this is a strategic move. I think that there's no doubt in my mind that AEW's main event will start after 7 p.m. Same thing they did. I think that 100%, whatever the main event is for All Out, it will start after. I think the pay-per-view will probably go 4.5 hours, and they'll hope that they'll run into WrestlePalooza. They'll compete that way. I believe. I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. I think the WWE is, I think WWE is putting their best foot forward, not just because they're running head-to-head with AEW, but realistically, this is the first PLE on ESPN. Like, they have to convince their entire fan base in America to switch over, and if they were on Peacock, subscribe to the ESPN app and watch the PLE there. That's what you have to do to watch this PLE, and that's a tough thing to do. I think ultimately that is the real reason why this is such a loaded show. They want to show ESPN what ESPN is paying for, and they want their fans to come over to this ESPN app. And, the amount of energy, I would not be shocked at all. I think either the mixed tag or the Cena Brock match is going to open the show. So the idea that, it's like even AEW fans. If you're only AEW fan, you don't watch WWE, it doesn't matter anyway. But if you're just a wrestling fan like I am, I'll be watching both shows. If I find out that WrestlePalooza is opening with AJ Lee's first match back, I think I'm going to watch the main event of All Out later. And I don't think I'm missing Cena versus Brock either. I don't think I'm missing either of those two live. So it'll be interesting to see how it all goes. And it'll be interesting to see if either one of those two affect the other. All right, I got a couple more things I was going to cover, but I don't think we have time. I did think, real quick, you know what Julia needs? The beautiful madness? More madness. I'm not seeing the madness. I'm seeing the beautiful. I'm not seeing the madness. I'm seeing the wrestler. I'm seeing she's good. I'm seeing the spectacle of it all. I'm not seeing the madness. Where's the madness? I would like Julia, the beautiful madness, if she showed us the madness. And also, I think you got to better define Kiana James. They just call her the official representation of Julia. What does that mean? Tell me she's Julia's agent. Tell me she's Julia's manager. If it's me, tell me she's Julia's publicist. That's the most annoying thing, right? God bless all the publicists. I love my publicist friends. You're all great. But a publicist is a good thing for a heel to be, right? Well, why don't you just have Kiana James be Julia's publicist? And then Julia's this mad person, show some madness, and then have the publicist be there to make sure that the madness is covered in the best way possible. I don't know. Just me. I just like a little bit more clear definitions. Bayley's new character, I love it. It's very interesting to me that there were people that thought Bayley was going to be CM Punk's partner. People are still convinced that Bayley is going after Becky whenever she comes back. It's clearly a Lyra Valkyria story. I've seen people go oh, look at that. Lyra's being used for nothing. Oh, after this Becky story, what's Lyra doing? Lyra's clearly the person that it's going to be Bayley and Lyra. It always was. When Bayley left, Lyra said, I want you out of my life. You don't think Bayley's coming back for Lyra? It's always been Bayley and Lyra. They even made a story out of it on Monday where Lyra was I haven't been on TV. It was acknowledged on television. It's part of the story. And then also, I feel like the same people that were oh, Lyra's not even being used on TV are the same people that decided on Saturday to announce that Wade Barrett's not on the main roster anymore. When are we going to learn? As wrestling fans, we refuse to learn. A report comes out. It says Wade Barrett is no longer going to be used on main roster commentary. It is credited to a news source that never reported it. It's credited to PW Insider. PW Insider's going, we didn't say that. It's credited to a place that didn't report it. Nobody follows up with anything. And this doesn't just go for wrestling. This goes for everywhere. We all love our headlines. Nobody follows up with anything. And I'm sitting there going, this would be news to me. And then Wade Barrett comes out and he goes, yeah, I got a couple weeks off. I'll be back. Everybody relax. Then they go like this. They go, well, if this thing came out, because this thing on Twitter came out, Nikki Bella didn't like what Wade Barrett said about her on the pre-show, whatever. Wade Barrett on the pre-show for Clash in Paris, Wade's a heel, and he was being kind of heelish to Nikki Bella. And Nikki Bella said, yeah, I didn't really enjoy that. Okay, if Nikki Bella didn't enjoy it, that's her prerogative. He's talking about her, but I didn't see anything wrong with what Wade Barrett did because he's being a heel. Literally. Everybody just decided, and I know I say speculate wildly, but also check your sources. But this isn't fantasy booking speculate wildly. This is like real life speculate wildly. They go, oh, I bet Wade Barrett got fired or got taken off commentary because of what he said about Nikki Bella. Like, what? Based on what? What pieces are we putting together here? And then Wade Barrett just puts a tweet out going like, yeah, me and Nikki are fine. We talked, and I'm taking a couple weeks off because I had vacation. Oh. So you're saying this is a nothing burger? That's weird. But we won't learn from it. We won't learn. If we do learn, tell me about it. Email me, notsamwrestling@gmail.com. Notsamwrestling@gmail.com is our email address. I always love reading the emails. Some people, they like when I'm mean to the email. Some people think I'm too mean to the email. You know what it is? This is just me. Plus, at this point, I've been talking for over an hour. I'm cranky. I think it's great. I love the email segment. And I love everybody that emails in. I love all you guys that are watching and listening to the podcast every single week and the emergency podcast and everything. You guys are the best. The fact that I get to do this is I can't tell you how much fun it is that I get to do this. It's great. All right. Mark in Tarzana writes in, Sam, my PTC and wise man on all things wrestling. That's right. First of all, and second of all, it's a great time of the year. The NFL has started and performers are coming back to WWE. That is true. I do love it when the NFL and WWE is all going on at the same time. And I didn't always feel this way. But I now fully embrace, I love NFL and WWE all happening at the same time. I think Raw is going to start being earlier at some point, maybe because of NFL or no. I don't know. Maybe I just read it on the internet. Who knows? Sam, what will happen with Jacob Fatu? Does he follow Jimmy Uso to Raw, getting him separated from Solo in the MFTs? I really want to see Jacob versus Breaker match. How would you book him so he can get to the WrestleMania 42 main event? Another quick question in mind. Did WWE miss an opportunity for Big E to sponsor or manage a tag team to feud with the New Day when they turned heel on him? As always, I acknowledge you, my PTC. Well, I think with Big E, they wanted him as a broadcaster. And I think he's a great broadcaster. I love having him on Raw Recap. I think he's awesome. So I think that I don't know. I don't think they missed an opportunity. I think they chose, instead of having him go out there and manage, we're going to have him on the broadcast team, which I think is good. In terms of Jacob Fatu, I don't think he needs to. While yes, I think he should be separated from Solo, I also think he should be separated from Jimmy Uso. I think it's time for Jacob Fatu to really branch out. I'd like to see Jacob Fatu. Jacob Fatu needs to get his hands on The Miz for a few weeks ago when The Miz slapped him in the face, and then start a whole fresh story with Jacob Fatu. I think there are tons of opponents for Jacob. But I think the answer to answer your question, how do you get him into the main event of WrestleMania 42? You start having him work with main eventers. You start having him work with the Drew McIntyres of the world. You start having him work with AJ Styles of the world. Let's start seeing what he can really do with the best that the WWE has to offer. I would love to see AJ Styles turn heel again after this feud with Dominic. And then do a Jacob. I would love to see AJ Styles turn heel, go back to SmackDown, and start a rivalry with Jacob Fatu. That's exactly what I would do. Because to see AJ Styles and Jacob Fatu matches, then you'd start to see what Jacob Fatu is really capable of. That's the move to me. Turn AJ again, have him wrestle Jacob Fatu. Have Shinsuke come back to SmackDown, wrestle Jacob Fatu. That's what I'm talking about. Let's go to Sydney, who writes in. Oh, this is Sydney in Sydney. They named this person after the city that they live in Australia. Wild speculation. Cena ends the year of the GOAT, Grand Slam champion. 2 Raw dates booked. Faces Dom or AJ, depending on who's champ. Wins the title. Click. Vacates the title when the year is done. No, I don't think, this is People just make up these things about John Cena. I don't think anybody cares whether John Cena wins the Intercontinental Championship or not. I think it'd be fine if he did. But I think that you can't, telling this story of being like, well, once you win the WWE Championship for the 17th time, the idea of winning the Intercontinental Championship doesn't have the same thing to me anymore. And I think you can tell that story, but if you do tell that story, you don't have a lot of time left. I think if you're going to, then you do the Dom versus Cena match and you have Dom win. Make people think that John Cena is going to get his Intercontinental Championship and then have Dom win. When you talk about the people that could benefit from a John Cena victory, it's Dom. Have Dominic Mysterio beat John Cena in that instance. Have John beat Brock Lesnar. The only two people that I'm comfortable with beating John Cena, I guess there are three. I wouldn't mind if Braun Breaker got a roll-up. I wouldn't mind if Dominic Mysterio beat John Cena, and I would really like to see Drew McIntyre beat John Cena. Drew McIntyre with a Claymore. But I wouldn't want all three of them to do it. Two of those three may beat John Cena. This is my rule now. Dominic Mysterio, Wade Barrett, Braun Breaker. And I'm starting to get shaky on Braun Breaker because I don't think he really would benefit from it at this point. I think he's in a good spot where he is right now. He's not going to main event WrestleMania 42. And I just don't think it would elevate him. I think it would be a little too much like the Austin Theory Solo Sikoa victory. However, he's still on the board. I kind of feel like I'm inching more towards Drew McIntyre gets the retirement match. But those are my three. Drew, Dom, Braun Breaker. Two of them may have victories over Cena. Garrison writes in from DC. Love the pod. Listen as soon as I can. Once each drops. Thank you. Appreciate all that you do. Assuming Trick Williams gets called up this year to the main roster, how would you book him once he's up? Okay, well, I think I'd book him as a babyface to start. I think a mid-card babyface. I think I'd book him on Raw because it's a little bit more high profile in my opinion. And I think I'd book him as a babyface, and I think I'd have him start a story with somebody who's not happy he's there, whoever it is. Have him beat that person, and then his next story is a quest for the Intercontinental Championship. Nice and slow. Nice and slow with Trick. Old Trick Willie. I don't know who, maybe you like, I don't know. It'd be a perfect spot if Ludwig Kaiser, if we were done with Grande Americano or Chad Gable came back. It'd be a perfect spot for like a Ludwig Kaiser who's not happy Trick Williams is there. And then we tell a story, not just a bunch of matches. I don't want to see 7 Trick Williams versus Ludwig matches. I want to see a story told. Then we get to Trick and Ludwig, then Trick wins. Then Trick goes for the Intercontinental Championship against Dom or whoever's got it. And Trick could win the Intercontinental Championship and make it a big deal. You know what I mean? And then that way Trick has to lose the Intercontinental Championship, maybe get a couple losses, start to build himself back up, and then you really get the sense of whether or not he's over and how far you can take him in that moment. That's probably what I would do. Good question. Dominic writes in, greetings from Utah. 2! You mentioned AJ's Chuck Taylors on this past episode. She was actually wearing Vans, which caught my attention. She changed it up. She actually lit it up. Light it up! Hopefully Bronson Reed didn't steal her shoes. I got that a lot, and I appreciate it. As a fellow sneaker connoisseur, I got very, very excited and saw Chuck Taylors. They were absolutely Vans. So yes, AJ Lee did return in Vans. Thank you for the correction, Dominic, and thank you for the correction, everybody that left it in comments and reviews on the audio feed. I do acknowledge you with a 2! Because AJ was indeed rocking Vans on SmackDown. I'm not sure if the Tribal Thief got them or not, got her Chucks or not. Camden writes in, hope all is well with you and you had a good birthday. Agree with you what you said about Sami and wrestling younger talent. However, Sami should not have been in that spot or match with Cena. That's not true. Nobody wanted it. crowd certainly didn't. I don't think that that's true. I think Sami versus Cena was a perfect television match, especially if you're not going to have a finish on it. I think that it completely relates to everything he's been through. I think it was a great match. The crowd was into the match. They were booing Sami Zayn. They were not booing the match. As a matter of fact, when Sami Zayn said right here, right now, the crowd cheered. The crowd did not poo-poo that match whatsoever. They booed Sami Zayn because they were cheering John Cena. If you boo somebody and cheer the other guy, if anything, you're literally asking for the match because you want the guy that you're cheering to beat the guy that you're booing, and you want to see that happen. Chicago absolutely wanted Sami Zayn versus John Cena. I don't think that was a bad call to have that match. And I think Sami just got booed because he wasn't John Cena. It should have been Jacob Fatu in that spot. No, and here's why. Everyone would have loved it. You do the same thing with Jacob kicking out of John Cena's finish. Here, Lesnar comes out. We get a tease for a future program. Here's the thing. No, that would be a terrible idea because Sami is fine without having a declarative victory over John Cena. For Jacob to get a match with John Cena, Jacob could use a victory over John Cena. Jacob is on the road where it's like a victory over John Cena would be a defining victory. For Jacob to face John Cena, have a non-finish, and then he gets laid out by an F5 and just powders? That would be like what happened to Kofi on SmackDown. That would be terrible for Jacob Fatu. He gets F5, he powders, and then Brock Lesnar is on SmackDown the next week, and Jacob's not going in to kill Brock Lesnar because we're building to Brock Lesnar versus John Cena. No, that's a horrible idea. Terrible idea, actually. I would love to see Jacob Fatu versus Brock Lesnar, and I would love to see Jacob Fatu versus John Cena, but not in this scenario. This isn't the scenario to do it. Jameson writes in, hello, my podcast Tribal Chief. I'm a massive Dominic Mysterio fan as well. I would like to see how you feel about Dom turning babyface and going with Tiffany Stratton, because if you look back at the Nia Jax stuff, she asked if Dom came with the title. Just a thought. If Dom goes with Tiffany Stratton, I don't think he turns babyface. If anything, it turns Tiffany heel. I think that Dom will be a babyface. This is what I hope for. I hope Dom turns babyface with Liv Morgan. I think that the Dom, like the idea as hot as Dom and Rhea were, like as a story, I don't want that getting taken out of context, but as great of a story as Dominic Mysterio and Rhea Ripley was, somehow Liv Morgan and Dominic worked even better, and no one saw that coming. I'm Team Liv Dom. And I think like as Liv is coming back, maybe you start pushing towards there's a closeness between Roxanne and Dom. And then Roxanne gets completely left in the lurch by Dominic Mysterio. He goes with Liv Morgan. And Dominic and Liv Morgan become a babyface act. To me, that's the no-brainer. That's what I would like to see happen. Because I love Liv Morgan. I love Dominic Mysterio. The crowd loves Liv Morgan. The crowd loves Dominic Mysterio. They've both gotten to a point where they're low-key great at every aspect of this wrestling thing. So, yeah, I would like those two to be baby faces. Joseph, right? I'm loving the emails today, by the way. Good questions, good contributions, concise, good emails today. Joseph writes in, my podcast Tribal Chief, I acknowledge you. Thank you, and I'll give you one of these.
I love you solo!
With the return of AJ Lee in particular, I was struck by something. Old school thinking, like every year prior to 2025, think it would be to save AJ Lee return for the PLE, sell tickets and views. Her coming back on well, no. That's not necessarily because you want to put AJ Lee on the poster. That's what's going to sell tickets and views. But her coming back on TV makes me think WWE is in a whole new and different business. We aren't selling tickets, we sell subs. Do you think this is a major shift in programming and thinking, or is it basically the same as before? No, I don't think so, because they are in the ticket selling business. They're making more money selling tickets than ever. Like, their gates are crazy. The ticket prices are super high, and they're selling. That's why the ticket prices are high, because that's how much people are buying them for. But no, I don't think so. I think that I think what the business move was to go, listen, this is going to be huge for Chicago. Chicago wants this. Let's allow them to think it's going to happen. Let's sell tickets to Chicago and Indianapolis and have this happen. And by the way, now, AJ Lee's going to be on Raw. That's going to sell tickets to Raw. AJ Lee's going to be on Raw the week after. Like, AJ Lee is back in the weeks leading up to WrestlePalooza. You know, you're not going to have one less eyeball on WrestlePalooza. I wanted AJ Lee to come back at WrestlePalooza because of the moment. It wasn't a business thing, because of the moment. But realistically, the closer we got to SmackDown, the more it was abundantly clear to me that the moment has to happen in Chicago. The moment has to happen on SmackDown, and you're given this opportunity to do one of the biggest SmackDowns ever and have everything we saw happen. There's I thought it was executed on perfectly, but no, I don't think that reading of the business is accurate. Phil from Stamford, United Kingdom writes in. I love this. I love how global this podcast is. It makes me very happy. He says,
5, 2.
I have wild speculation, no grounds for it being valid, but isn't that the best type of speculation? As a matter of fact, it very much is. You should be speculating wildly. Assuming the match that gets made is Seth and Becky versus Punk and AJ Lee, I give the win to Seth and Becky due to interference from, wait for it, Paige. No idea where the story goes after, but I leave that to you. You son of a you-know-what, Phil. You leave that to me? See, I always ask, and then what? That I always ask that. If you listen to this podcast, you know that's what I love to ask. And then what? And that is where what I feel about this. And then what? I would it be crazy if that happened? Yeah, but like, it feels like a hat on a hat on a hat if you don't have a story to hook me. And that doesn't hook me as a story. So no, I'm going to say no. And I'm not doing a story that I'm not going to if you're giving me a premise that I don't particularly like and telling me to make it into a story that I do like, I probably could do that, but I won't. I hope that that's okay. All right. Last email. No, let's go to, okay. This will be the last email from TJ. I acknowledge you, my PTC. Thank you. That's the podcast tribal chief. Sami Zayn's story for the last 2 years has been about finally becoming world champion. He's consistently around the top of the card, but has never accomplished that goal. Okay. Yeah. We also know that WWE is extremely focused on creating massive moments like Seth's fake injury, Cena's heel turn, AJ Lee's return. Correct. If WWE were to ever pull the trigger on rewarding Sami Zayn with a world title run, wouldn't it be the perfect moment to have him win the Rumble in Saudi Arabia? You're creating a forever memory that the live audience will absolutely love him, and the pop would be massive. And if that's not the moment for Sami, what on earth could be? It's a great question, and it's a great scenario. I think that what you have to do is read the writing on the wall at the end of the year. Right now, I don't think that the relationship that Sami Zayn has with the audience puts him in the main event for WrestleMania. I don't think that that's what the WrestleMania audience wants right now. Could change by December because Sami Zayn's that good. Could easily change. But I think Sami Zayn is in a sort of work back up to it space. You heard that with the crowd in Chicago. So while, yes, that would be an amazing moment in Saudi, it's almost like, and yeah, I mean, I'm with you because, I mean, I remember I did a whole podcast about it. You can find it on the YouTube channel. I got to a point leading up to the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view in Montreal when I was like, you know what? Maybe Sami should just win the world title. Maybe Sami should just beat Roman Reigns because of the moment. But as big as that moment would have been, it wasn't worth disrupting the story that was being told. And maybe that story coming out of that wouldn't have been worth the moment. The story coming out of the moment has to be worth the moment. We know we're going to get a great story from AJ Lee and CM Punk and Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch. We know we're going to have good TV leading up to the PLE. We know we're going to have a great match at the PLE. And we know coming off of that, the feelings are going to be real good with the matches we can have with AJ Lee. If Sami Zayn were to win the Royal Rumble and have that moment and have the audience go wild, is it too similar to the Jey Uso win? And we have the exact same build to WrestleMania next year that we did this year. And will it live up to the moment? And right now, I'm not sure that it will. But luckily, it's only the beginning of September. And I guarantee you, the world leading up to the Royal Rumble in professional wrestling will look completely different than the world of professional wrestling looks right now. But that's the beauty of the era that we're in, and that's the beauty of getting to do shows like this, because ultimately, we're just here to chronicle all of it. And we'll continue to do so. Make sure that you are here with us as we continue to do so. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Notsam Wrestling. Every podcast goes up, as well as video from the SiriusXM show, Notsam Wrestling Live, that airs every Monday through Thursday, 12 to 2 p.m. Eastern on channel 156. That's Pro Wrestling Nation. Also subscribe across all audio feeds, Apple, Spotify, everywhere you can get Notsam Wrestling. Not only will you get this podcast, but you'll get daily updates throughout the week on different topics of everything going on. Just this week, we put out special shows on the Usos getting back together, on The Rock losing all that weight and whether or not he's going to wrestle again. There's so much content now going out every single week, and I'm giving it to you. Just subscribe to the feeds, YouTube channel and the audio feed, and we'll be there for you. I can't wait to do it all again throughout the week. I'll see you then. Have a good one, everybody.